Good evening to you, Faraz.
Thank you for taking care of the show while I was ill.
Yes.
Not that I'm fully better, but anyway. Now then, where do you live, Chaturanga?
I live in Colombo 15, Faraz.
Colombo 15. Do you have power cuts?
Not so far. I've been fortunate enough not to have any power cuts as of late.
Right.
But according to what my parents tell me, since I'm half the time here at Union Place in the Newsfirst Center, but they are expecting power cuts as well. And as yesterday,
Expecting, but they haven't had any.
we haven't had any.
Right.
We haven't had any, but we have had on the other side we have had the water cut for over 12 hours the day before yesterday. So the people of that area have not been that fortunate.
Right.
While they had power, they did not have water. So they are having their issues of their own. But to answer your question, we have not had any power cuts as of late for us.
I've had several telephone calls from members of the public, and if you want to send your questions in, it's 0772 300 305. Please by SMS only. And members of the public have already called us, and actually I took a couple of calls day before yesterday, and they're complaining that, and I also took a call this just now, just before I came on the set, they're complaining that the power cuts are partial to some areas. They're saying that Colombo, in the better parts of Colombo, have no power cuts, but yet I had a couple of callers from Fife Road and just beyond there. They say that they have power cuts which has no relationship to the schedule that the CEB has put out.
We have had that complaint here as well. For us, a few people called us as well and informed us about this, and we have tried to get hold of these substations, the subgrids that are located in these areas, and the problem, I think, in our opinion as journalists, is the fact that the demand is high in these places. Therefore, they have to balance that by cutting the power to certain areas that are in the, how do I say it, not so center Colombo, but away towards Vallavatta from one end and towards the other end.
But
also.
surely places like Rajagiri, not Rajagiri, Bathramul and so on, where there are plenty of high-rise, multiple unit dwellings, flats, they don't have power cuts. Yes. And the contention amongst our people who have called us is that their consumption is very high, and yet they haven't got any power cuts. And in other areas where maybe the property values are much lesser, they're experiencing power cuts. So they're trying to draw a...
that is a fair argument for us, but if you take a look at the areas where there have been power cuts in Colombo, those areas are not limited just to residential areas. Those are areas with a large number of shops operating. There may be minor factories operating. So the argument is fair. The argument that you're bringing to say that places where there are, what you're trying to say is that there are places where there are rich people living.
Where the rich and the not so famous live.
So yes, so when you say that, there is an argument, I'm not saying no, but on the other hand, the places where there is a power cut, there are not so residential areas, but in addition they have shops operating, they have factories operating, minor operations going on in that area as well. So that could be a reason. I'm not saying that is the reason. That could be a reason, but as of right now, we are yet to find that out. Maybe when the minister comes here, you can ask him that and get a proper answer as well. Yes. But as you mentioned, we have received that complaint as well, that in central Colombo, where the Temple Trees, the Prime Minister's residence and all these places are located, power cuts are not experienced. But if you go by the same logic, Mattakulya, Colombo 15, Mutwal and Mattakulya has also had no power cuts. So that argument can go both ways, but what you mentioned is right. There have been no power cuts in certain areas in Colombo, while some of the other places have had power cuts, Faraz?
There you are. Well, one of the first messages that have come through says, yes, we had a power cut in Colombo 15 today. We just got power back now. Right. Thank you for that question, for that oh, and it must be a poet, because it's he or she says, a tale of two cities is the story for Colombo.
That's good to know, because I'm also from Colombo 15 and I did not know that information. So we thank the viewer for sending us that information as well. But for us, I want to...
but it's a bit of a serious matter though, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely.
Because, you know, with the power coming in and out like this, electrical equipment tends to get damaged, freezers get affected and so on.
The most serious problem would be for us now, we are at an era where the government decides to bring us these massive investment projects into the country. You're talking about investment projects to the tune of 3.85 billion US dollars as well on one hand. And let's leave that aside, but to talk about the actual investors, the due diligence has been done, the proper investors who are supposed to come, who want to come here, maybe they'll have a look at whether if they want to start a business here, let's say an apartment complex even for that matter, if they want to have a look at a business opportunity here in Sri Lanka, wouldn't they look at this power crisis right now? Because then they will know that the government and the infrastructure that we have to provide power is not at that standard or at that level where they could be providing power if new projects come in. Higher the demand, there will be a problem in the future.
Yes,
so they will definitely look at that point as well.
Yes. Now, while you say that, I read somewhere earlier that the Prime Minister says that in his house in 5th Lane, he uses a generator.
Yes.
Or he says, I use a generator.
This was discussed in Parliament today as well.
Yes, I presume it's at 5th Lane. And he says the others should do the same. Well, that's rich for the Prime Minister to say that, because I am quite certain that the government is picking the tab up. Otherwise, I'd like Mr. Wickremesinghe to back it all up and say that it is he personally who's picking the tab up. That would be nice if he did that. But if it's at Temple-Trees, the government is paying anyway.
The people are paying.
The people are paying. Exactly. Very well spotted. The people are paying. And if that's the case, I think that they need to let everybody be the same. Our guest is here. We'll go for a short break. And when we come back to Newsline, we'll be joined by the Minister of Power and Energy, Mr. Ravi Karunanayake.
Newsfirst, Newsline Prime with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Prime. We're now joined by the Minister of Power and Energy, Mr. Ravi Karunanayake, who actually is feeling rather under the weather, but because he made the commitment to us, he's here. And we do really appreciate that. And he's here straight from Parliament, so he'll be able to tell us a little bit of hot news. Thank you, Mr. Karunanayake, for being here. We appreciate you. I know you're coming in for a cold. There's a virus. There's a virus going on.
Yeah.
But thank you. And we really appreciate you coming here. What did you tell Parliament today about the power crisis?
Well, what we told today was that we will ensure that all blame related and have a blame game I will take it on and ensure that the blame game stops today. We give an answer before April 10th, where there will be no power cuts during the Sinhala Tamil New Year. And when it comes, God willing, fingers crossed, if the Mahavali gives us water, that's a done deal. But in the meanwhile, we are getting supplementary power to come in to augment if by chance that there is the weather patterns don't work the way we would expect. We cannot ever go on the basis that the weather will be perfect.
Right.
So as a result, I gave today Parliament on behalf of the President, Prime Minister, Cabinet of Ministers that there will be no power cuts for Sinhala Tamil New Year, and when you come out of it, fingers crossed, God, everything will be okay. If not, definitely before Vesak, everything will be sorted out. Permanent solution.
Permanent solution.
Permanent solution.
And how can you share with us how you're going to do that?
We are looking at, in hand. What has happened today is that we are going after the demand in the manner that what the CB can give us.
Right.
We are going after a power economy, where we are basically looking at if you happen to come and say, I want 100 megawatts, we should be in a position to do so.
Right.
Otherwise, this is not a developed country.
Yeah.
And I was telling, Colombo has 4,000, Sri Lanka has 4,200 megawatts installed capacity. Singapore has roughly about 85,000. You had 85,000 megawatts.
Right.
Korea has roughly 160,000 megawatts. Japan has 178,000 megawatts. So, Sri Lanka, what has happened? You look at Malaysia, they basically have 22 million like us, but they have 22 million megawatts of power.
I see. So, it's incomparable.
Absolutely.
In your opinion, Minister, what has ailed this? What have our forward planning people been doing in all these years?
I would basically stop the blame game and I'll take it upon myself.
Right.
Because what will happen, it will be heartburns all over, and there's no point doing that. I have got a good rapport with the entire CB staff members and the engineers, and we are coming up with things that are alternate, looking at a new CB, and not years, weeks.
But you certainly will be the first minister to come on any platform and not blame the others.
Well, that's the political spirit that I use, even though I get hammered going to that. I want to ensure that, the blame game stops. If you look at the real situation, is that 2010 onwards, there has been no new generation. The last was West Coast.
Right.
From that, you have roughly every year 250 megawatts of power is the demand.
So this is almost criminal that we haven't been keeping up.
But politicians are 65% of the problem. I must take that responsibility. That's the reason why I did it, so that you can't basically disseminate, it'll just be heartburns all over.
Yeah.
Let's move forward.
Politicians are 65%.
He's not picking up things from the pie from the sky. It is something which is genuinely done. We are looking at the LNGs, we are looking at solar power, bringing roughly scheduling of the new approach. That is, we are taking away all the registration purposes.
Right.
You come and basically say, I have got all the licenses. In 2 weeks, you'll get a LOI.
Oh, I see.
But you have got to ensure that you pay 25% or 20% as a bank guarantee.
Right.
And if it's solar, in 4 months you have to build. If not, there's a penalty, because there's too many licenses being sold.
So you're trying to separate the boys from the men?
If you say so.
All right. Well, it needs to be done, because there was a time in the past where there were more trading in mini hydro licenses than there were actually mini hydro projects operational.
That's what exactly you pinpointed. That is why we have changed this. This can't go on. This is sickening. Solars can be done up and running 4 months. You can have wind power in 1 year. You can have dendro in 9 to 12 months. You can have, solar hybrid with the wind, 9 to 10 months. Battery power, same. So I think we have not opened ourselves up, and this is what we're doing.
And do you think that you'll have the the support of the CB engineers, because obviously there seems to be a difference of opinion between the CB and the public utilities people, and then finally, I suppose the ministry is caught in the middle.
Yes, that is the last day that we'll complain on that. We'll get things behind us and move forward.
Mm-hmm. So you got your team together now?
The army is ready.
The army is ready, ready to take it on. Because obviously...
Hitler mentioned that success has many fathers,
right.
defeat has just one father. Unfortunately, at this moment, Parliament tried to show that it is me. Never mind, I'll do that.
But sometimes, Mr. Karunanayake, as politician Karunanayake, I've been having a look at this thing. You seem to get, if you like, the short straw. Way back, you had the Ministry of Commerce, and that was no easy time there. Then you had the unfortunate incident of being the Minister of Finance of a very depleted Ministry of Finance, with several subjects taken away from you. Some may be thankfully so.
One-fourth.
One-fourth. And yet...
Sorry, three-fourths, I'm sorry.
Yes, I think you only left with the quarter.
Yeah, that's
because you didn't have the central bank, you didn't have the state banks, you didn't have the state enterprises, and so on. Now, but through it all, you've stuck it out, and you've taken on the challenge posed to you. Do you feel, or at any point, did you feel that, oh no, power, they've given me another one, or are you actually reveling in the fact that you've got a big challenge?
So challenges are no major problem for me. It's
Right.
only the genuine pursuit of trying to get things without having interferences and backstabbing that goes on.
Right.
That is the problem that I don't like.
Does that affect you much?
No.
The backstabbing?
Well, that has become now normal. They don't, I mean, that is only the trees that have the fruits that get wet. And also specifically, it is the people who do the work is the one who are targeted.
And I need to ask you another question. Several calls saying that the power cuts are not equitable, as in it's not distributed equally amongst all the areas. So some people are saying that we live in Colombo but on the outskirts, like Fife Road and so on. And we've got power cuts, and others who are living in Flower Road and so on saying that, well, we don't.
No, that's wrong. What we done was any area that they are basically come forward and giving generators. Colombo gives almost 100 megawatts.
Right.
There to reciprocate, we basically look at things done.
Right.
So, I mean, there has to be some gratitude for people who stick their necks out when all the others are not.
Right.
So we have 1,583 installed capacity possible.
Right.
But only 30 have joined this on the request that we made.
Well, why do you think they're not joining?
Well, the seriousness is not seen and shown, and they think the government's problem is not their problem, and that's a sad indictment.
You're sad. You do feel sad about that, don't you?
Obviously, we are asking, please knock the AC off,
Yes.
because we can have an outstation person.
Indeed. I think we also need to knock the AC off in the studio, because clearly the minister is very well under the weather. And Maxwell, if you would sort that out for us, we'd be very grateful. But your house will still have power cuts, all right? So now then, how do you respond to the charges that these power cuts are actually manufactured because the supplementary power people want to get in on the act?
No, please. It would have been in the past. But they are also dealing with a new minister, which brokes no nonsense.
Right.
I got all the engineers, because they are the brains, got them, got the entire team that from generation to dispatch to transmission, and then we told what is the answer, and this is what they are saying. So it's not something or void of discovery is by us. Professionals have to give it, and we run it through. Because, as I said, we are going through creating a power economy. What we are doing now is asking, okay, how much of power can we give? And we are on our bended knees, because it's a demand-led generation approach. We are saying put excess capacity. Yeah. What's the loss?
Especially because you're trying to grow the economy, trying
Absolutely.
to invite...
As I said, if if you want 2 megawatts moving up to 4 megawatts, if you are unable to respond, what's the purpose of the country? That's what we are going for. And all generation will be cheaper than what they're doing at the moment. That's the challenge. You know, you have the old machines in Kalnitisa working roughly 45-50 rupees a unit. Sapugatskanda is 35-40. Uttare Vasante is 69-70 up there. So all of them are basically adding on to the loss of the CB. So we are looking at things coming at 21, 24 and we're solving the problem.
And are you able to say what the mix will be? Will it be mainly coal?
Mixed generation would be 1/3 renewables, 1/3 LNG and the thermal, and 1/3 coal.
Right. So there is, will you have another coal power plant somewhere?
Yes, because it is definitely the cheapest. And I mean, you can't, because if you have 3 plants there and one breaks, you're completely kept hostage with the breakdown.
And because it also takes time to fire up again.
So I think it is ludicrous just to, you know, basically get things done. But I'm very concerned about the environmental issues. We have got all those things done, and will challenge anybody that now the people will basically say, okay, things are
because
happening.
we've got clean coal plants, haven't we?
Supercritical coal.
Yes. So if that's available elsewhere, why can't we have it here?
That's correct. That's exactly it.
And will you be taking steps, unlike in Noricholi, where the previous government did, and the officials didn't relocate people out of the area fast enough?
Yes.
And
we don't want to be reactive. We want to be proactive.
Right. And it's the same problem in the areas surrounding Umaoya, where those people are still waiting.
Well, this is the problem. I must say, I would greatly appreciate. You can help us in not basically putting the place on fire. You can look at what the problem is, see whether the answers are there and just get it, because media, giving just one aspect of it and going the wrong way, you have lost your generation for the future.
Do you think that Newsfirst is doing it equitably, or do you think that we
It is definitely been done on equitable basis.
Oh, good. Thank
Not
you.
only equitable, on the least cost generation basis. I told the engineers that I will not sign if it is going to be more expensive than the existing plants.
Right.
So that's a good barometer, benchmark, and so that you have a negotiation ability with those.
Right. And how long do you think it'll take to sort out the whole thing?
Well, you want to know as to how this problem exists. We have 4,200 installed capacity. 1,300 in solar. I'm sorry, in hydro. 1,200 in thermal. And renewables 683.
Right.
So when today we suddenly have the hydros only pumping 300 megawatts out of 1,300. You know, Randanigala has 85% of water in the tanks.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So what can we do? Their approach is that they need for water, they need for irrigation, so we become secondary. But then that is also a eye-opener, that we can rely on water anymore. Now who's going to blame us for that?
So even though Randanigala has got 85% in the reservoir,
I would appreciate if your team can go to Randanigala, have it reported.
Well, indeed, I'm sure that Maxwell's taking notes, and we'll dispatch the area representative to Randanigala and check on there, so we can report on this tomorrow. It'll be a good story.
Thank you.
So, long term, when do you think this will all kick in? When will we have an LNG plant?
Our deficit is really for 3 hours in the morning and evening, 6:30 to 9 and 6:30 to 8:39 in the night. This is where the curve basically meets in with pressure. When you are unable to deliver the hydro, you automatically have it tripping off. So that's where the scheduling takes place. So that's a scientific system which I'm learning very intently as to how it can be done. But they are doing their very best, minimizing whatever cuts to the bare bone.
And your colleagues in cabinet, are they?
I must say they are giving all the necessary assistance.
And the ones who don't like you, are they being quiet?
So who don't like continues to do so.
Right.
But I don't waste time in wasting people who basically have their knife at the throat all the time.
Right.
So you can't basically, you have got to be a politician well beyond that.
But I'm glad that you're openly saying that there is. You're not
Yes.
saying it's all a bed of roses.
No, I'm saying that. I want to basically confirm that this is the way that it goes.
Well, I'm almost lost for words about that. But there you are. You've admitted to that, and you're still getting on with it. And
95% is okay, just 1 or 2 black sheep that are there.
so you expect them anywhere. Future political ambitions?
I'll ensure that the sustainable political development takes place and bring the best party that can administer these problems. And we believe UMP, but there are a lot of weaknesses. We need to correct that immediately. We have individual people who basically are living in a world of their own, and such things are not good for the unity of the party. This is not a one-person party. It is a collective party which has come from the ground swell.
Right. I think, Minister, they're having a slight problem with the audio. Do you mind if you stay like that? I know you're ill. Max, there you are. That's much better. Thank you. So, do you think, including in those problems, are leadership issues and so on?
Well, those are not for individuals to decide. You do sometimes disproportionately help certain people. But I think you should really look at who are the real potential people. You know, this country does not mean that you sell the parents and get to a point. You've got to sell a concept. You know, if you have an unemployment problem, you can't say that, you know, I solve the problem by, you know, getting the tall people to be laborers and the short people.
Talk about employment. Do you get a long list of people wanting employment in the ministry?
Absolutely.
And can you accommodate more?
Yes, but not at the expense of the entity. You know, we have got to have that doesn't touch the entity per se.
But there is room, and you're trying to accommodate them.
Yes, yes.
And is it all inclusive? Do you try and distribute what you can
it is.
from around the country?
Unlike my predecessors, which was all bent on one district.
Right.
So I think we need to correct that. That's not ethical.
So you're putting a bit of humanity into the ministry?
Political reality. We are a team. Not like some people who just, you know, have everything for themselves. Those vicious or self-thinking people don't have popularity that is there in the real downtown politics. So
back to the, just before we finish off, back to the reality of the current power crisis. You say that everything will be done and dusted by the 10th?
Well, you'll ask as to how it has been done.
Yes.
We are basically looking at getting in 50, 60 barges that broke to be reinstituted.
Right.
We are looking at adding on certain solar operations that are there. Then we are looking at certain barges that we have, maybe 100, 200 being added on in the next 10, 12 days. Then Northern Power, which is in Jaffna, we are looking at making appeal so that every generation, every megawatt is useful. So those are the things that we are doing at the moment. So that will bring in roughly 385 megawatts, and standby process that I told you, that will be used for synchronization, or the basically, you know, sign agreement with them that they will add generation to the grid when we require.
Wonderful. Minister Ravi Karunanayake, thank you very much for being on Newsline Prime, especially because you have come straight from Parliament and you've had to pass home where you could have gone home and got rid of or started to get rid of your flu.
Thank you.
Thank you. We really do appreciate your presence and what you told us about. Thank you for being so frank.
I would appreciate if you could take the speech in Parliament And I thought that was all-inclusive speech that was made.
Indeed, I believe our news team is preparing it to run on the 9 o'clock news, which will follow in half an hour on TV1. Ravi Karunanayake, thank you very much. Do come back when you're feeling much better,
sure,
and tell us about the progress you're making in,
sure,
in this very critical ministry.
But I would appreciate if you can give positive sentiments rather than, you know, take the system on. Wherever that we find flouting or inefficiency, don't spare us. But wherever try to do a genuine job, please help us in full.
We will highlight all the good and bring to your notice the bad.
Thank you.
And that's the way it was on Newsline Prime with Ravi Karunanayake, Member of Parliament and Minister of Power and Energy. Thank you, take care, have a great evening, and God bless you.